Well, welcome to the recording for week 4 for Computer Fundamentals A. And you'll see that in week 4, it's September 30th to October 4th, so Monday through Friday. In week 4, we're getting into the Spreadsheets unit. And as you did last week with the Documents unit, you will do all of the Spreadsheets unit in 1 week. And just keep in mind that we have 2 weeks left in this class. You have this week, and then we have the presentations unit, which is October 6th through 11th. So if you're a little bit behind, you need to get some work caught up. One huge note, remember we have October 1st, the count day. That's Tuesday, October 1st. You are required to submit at least one assignment on October 1st, on that day. It can be a new assignment from this week, or it can be an old assignment. Probably the write-up would be the best thing to submit. Or you could submit like Project 1 in the Spreadsheets unit, but you must submit at least one assignment on that day. So you'll see that in week 4 you have 3 projects. So you have a Project 1, a Project 2, and a Project 3. And then you have the exam. And just like the work for last week's in the Documents unit, Project 1 you do, then you use it to complete Project 2, then you use Project 2 to complete Project 3. They flow off of one another. Okay, I'm going to go into the course home. Then here's the announcement on the October 1st work. So that's again the importance of the October 1st work. Now I also have in here some sample assignments. So you can go take a look at some assignments that other students have done. So these are assignments that your fellow students have done. And then here are some examples from this week's work, and I'll take a look at that. I'll show you that. Okay, let's go on down to the Spreadsheets unit. So here we are in the Spreadsheets unit. And of course, first thing we want to do is we want to take a look at the write-up, don't we? So we can answer the questions as we go along. Adjust my screen here a little bit. Okay, so first, how can Excel or any spreadsheet program be quite useful? So here we are. Here we are in the introduction screen. So authoring spreadsheets in Excel. Now look at all the stuff that one can do with this. We're not going to get into anything fancy in this class, but just know that there are so many things you can do with Excel. So it talks about the usefulness of Excel. And Excel can be quite daunting when you look at all the rows and the columns, the formulas, functions, and all of that. But you're going to discover that Excel can be quite useful. It can be quite useful when you're trying to manage large amounts of numerical data. So that's why it can be quite useful, is when you're trying to manage large amounts of numbers, large amounts of numerical data. And when we go through this unit, we're going to look at formulas and functions, how to use a spreadsheet, how to format your spreadsheet. We're going to end up doing all of those things. But there's the answer to that Class Connect write-up question right there. All right, let's go back to the write-up. And in section 3, so we'll get to section 3 eventually, so let's go to section 2. So in section 2, spreadsheet, it really comes from when business owners used to keep track of their books, their daily business profit and all that, and sales and everything. And they would use paper spreadsheets that they would write on. But with modern spreadsheets, you can do a checkbook balance, check mileage on your car, do the workout results from the gym, all types of those things. And spreadsheet is the term used for not only the software we use, but also for the charts that you end up making. And Excel is the most popular spreadsheet. Of course, some of you are using OpenOffice, and OpenOffice has a spreadsheet tool also. So in this section, we're going to look at the fundamental concepts of Excel, identify appropriate uses for Excel, create a basic spreadsheet, recognize and use key features and capabilities. Now here's a little, this is a 28-minute video that talks about spreadsheets, and it's kind of old. You can watch that if you want, but I'm obviously not going to require you to sit for 28 minutes to watch that. And this just has you think about other uses of a spreadsheet as you learn a little bit more about them. So that's section 2. So let's go back to the write-up. There were no questions from section 2, so section 3. What are the 3 components of a spreadsheet? Explain how rows and cells are labeled differently. What is the definition of a cell in a spreadsheet? So that's all section 3. So in section 3, the anatomy of a spreadsheet, or how it's broken up. Well, the essential components of a cell, the different parts, are right here, or components of a spreadsheet. Columns, rows, and cells. Those are the 3 components of a spreadsheet. So here's the column A, column B, column C, column D, and then you have row 1, row 2, row 3, row 4, etc. So that's how a spreadsheet is lined out. In this section, we're going to explore Excel, identify parts of a spreadsheet, practicing opening a spreadsheet. So you would just go up to File, New, or File, Open, whichever you wanted to do to get a spreadsheet program open. And if you look at the anatomy of a spreadsheet, you can go down, you can see there's the menu bar at the top, and it's obviously similar to using word processing program, isn't it? So there's a toolbar, the formatting bar, the row indicator. So if you look at this, rows are labeled by numbers. So rows are numbered, and columns are lettered. Column A, column B, column C, row 4, row 5, row 6, row 7. And then a cell is where a column and a row meet. So I'm just highlighting the word cell right here, and you can see that the red is in cell A1. You always say the column number first. Now if you look at this, so this is in cell A1. I can tell I'm in that cell because it's outlined. Also, I can see it right up above here. But the easiest way to tell where you are is because the cell is outlined. So again, columns, which go up and down, like columns on a building, are A, B, C, D, etc. And rows are 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's how you identify where you are on a spreadsheet. More about rows and columns. So a cell is a box that holds data. So if we look at this spreadsheet, it's organized in what is called a grid of cells. So see all these different cells? Like right here is A2, right here is C3, right here is D6, right here is C9, and then of course right here is A1. So they're always identified by the column first and then the row. So E14 would be go to E and then go all the way down to 14. There's E14. So that's how you can identify a cell. Here's a little self-test, and just see if you know what these things are, and then you can check them and see if you remember that. Let's go back to the write-up and see if I answered all those questions. What are the 3 components of a spreadsheet? Did that. Explain how rows and cells are labeled differently. We did that. What is the definition of a cell? I did that. The definition of a cell is where a row and a column meet, isn't it? Okay, next, section 4. In a spreadsheet, what is the easiest way to tell which cell you are in? In Excel, how do you resize a column? And what is the term used to change the way numbers appear in a spreadsheet? Let's go on to section 4. So here we are in section 4. And spreadsheets have limitless commands. You can do formatting. You can put formats on all kinds regarding all kinds of things. Like you can change the font, the colors of words and numbers, the size, the alignments, all kinds of things you can do. You can change the way dates appear. In this section, we're going to look at how to generate, format, and modify spreadsheets, and to start creating a budget. So in this exercise, you're going to get a start on project 1 by following the directions that come up in these little videos. And of course, you always want to make sure you save your work as you go along. So this little tutorial, we want to watch this tutorial because it's going to show you how to get started on a spreadsheet. And what you're going to do, as I said, you're going to open up a spreadsheet program as you watch these tutorials, and you're going to start doing the work for project 1. These little tutorials will lead you to do that work, so please do what it says. Now as you move around the spreadsheet as they show you in this tutorial, You use your arrow keys to move around to go from cell to cell. And remember, the cell that you are in has a darker line around it. That's how you know what cell you are actually sitting in. There's a darker line around it. Now here's the work that little video is showing you how to do. It's going to have you enter this information. So right now you should have your spreadsheet open and you're going to these exact places. So at A1 you're going to type in weekly budget. At A3 you're going to type in my expense item. At B3 you're going to type in the word amount. And then you're going to continue and add this information. So do this exactly. Do this exactly. So at this point, yours should look just like this, in the same rows, exact same columns. And again, this is going to help you with your Project 1 assignment. Now here's more about rows and columns and cells, so you want to make sure you watch this video. I'm not going to take the time to sit through this, but this is going to talk more about columns and rows, so you understand how to move about columns and rows. Now resizing columns, this is important. Resizing columns means that, like, if your information is too wide, then you resize it. So if I scroll down here, we want to work on the width of the column. And to work on the width, you move the mouse to the right edge of the column header, click, hold, and drag. So that's how you resize a column. Or you can double click, but click, hold, and drag is how you can resize a column. So I'm going to show you an example here. So here's an example, and let's say that in this cell right here in G6 I have that number. But watch. See, it's too big for this cell, and actually I want to change that. I don't want to have scientific notation, so I'm going to just format that. And when a number won't fit in a cell, then it gets all these dollar signs on it. So you go up to the top right here in the middle and you widen it. So I'm widening the column, and now the number fits. So that's how you widen or resize a column, by grabbing right there, clicking and dragging. That's widening a cell. So you just move to the right edge of the cell, click and drag. Here's page 8. Page 8. Now formatting values. Formatting values, that's going to be to change the way numbers look. So if you're working with dollars, you want it to appear with a dollar sign and a decimal rather than just a decimal number. So you want to follow the directions in this video, and this will show you how to put dollars on those numbers. So follow those directions. Resizing cells, we looked at it, so that video is going to help you do that. And go ahead and save this. So I would just save this as budget spreadsheet, or just budget if you want to. And when you go in and work on it in Project 1, then you're going to save it differently. So let's go on to what Project 1 is. And in Project 1, you're going to make some changes to that spreadsheet. And I will create a video that talks about how to do all these 3 projects. So I'm not going to discuss that right now. But you're going to make changes to the video. And of course right here is where you can go see how your work is going to be graded. But when you do this work, just call it Unit 4 Project 1. It's the best name for it. Unit 4 Project 1, then you know exactly what it is. Let's go back to the write-up. Spreadsheet, what's the easiest way to tell what cell you're in? Well, the cell is outlined, right? How do you resize a column? We just talked about that. And what term is used to change the way numbers appear? I talked about that. It shows it in there, and that's also the same word you use if you want to change the way text appears in a word processing document. So what is that term used to change the way numbers and text appears? I think everybody should know that. Okay, moving into section 5, explains what a range in a spreadsheet is and give an example of a range. What can you put around cells and groups of cells to make them more visual? So now we're into section 5. Section 5, again, we're looking at formatting a spreadsheet. Formatting is changing the way things appear in a spreadsheet, right? And there's numerous commands. Change the fonts, the colors, the sizes, all kinds of things in a spreadsheet. So we're going to generate, format, and modify spreadsheets, identify poor spreadsheet formatting. So one of the formatting options is the date. Like 5/7, that would refer to month 5 and then the 7th day, right? May, so it'll be May 7th, that's 7/5. There's also like 9/11. On 9/11, there's two important events in the world. 9/11 could be September 11th when the World Trade Center was bombed, but also it could be November 9th, which would be 11/9. That's another way that that date could show up, which was when the fall of the Berlin Wall. So you need to be careful on your formatting dates to make sure that people know what they mean. Now this is a little bit of information, and they're going to have a couple of examples here. Like this would be a temperature chart on certain days, and just talks about making sure that you are consistent and moderate in the formatting you use. So see, this is bad formatting here, because look, they have a big number here, they have blue colors here, they have big numbers here, little numbers here. So this really isn't consistent, is it? So you want to be consistent. Even the dates are not consistent. So you want to have the same formatting for the different things. So mess with this to see what you know about formatting numbers. Text in a spreadsheet. So you can use text in a spreadsheet, and text is used for column headings and row headings. So you can see how text can be typed in. You can center text in a cell, and they center these numbers in the cells just like you would in a word processing document. They're centering commands. Now, working with cells. A range of cells is a sequence of cells. And what sequence means is a bunch of cells that are next to each other. And this is going to talk about resizing. What are they doing resizing again? So this is going to have you resize. So just watch this video to see how you're going to resize some cells. I'm not sure why they didn't show what a range was. We'll talk about range in a minute. Also on cells, you can put in fill in the background of the cells. So you want to take a look. This is more about formatting of cells. We're going to talk about how to make cells look different. So make sure you watch that. So you can see what they're doing here. This is the one that you're playing with already, right? This is the sample that you have. The formatting menu. So just like in a word processor, you can go up and you choose format cells, and you can do all kinds of things to cells. The numbers tab, when you format cells, you can make the numbers change differently. You can make the numbers look like dates, percentages, currency, etc. So watch this little snippet video, and she will explain formatting numbers. Grids and borders. Borders are used to make a chart more visual. So the darker lines are called borders. So if you look at this person went and put borders around some of these cells. So to make a chart or line look more visual, it's used the border. And they're also called grid lines sometimes. And you can put borders around a bunch of individual cells, or around a whole thing, or around a whole chart of information. Here's a little bit of practice on borders. So you want to make sure you watch how to add borders. And Format Painter, this is where you can put a massive bunch of commands on a set of cells, on a range of cells. In Project 4, or Project 2, so you're going to take Project 1 after you've done that, then you open it up and you do Project 2 work. And then you'd save it as Project 2, and as I said, I will have a separate recording that talks about how to do Projects 1, 2, and 3. Then right here is where you can click to see how you're going to be graded. Now, the one thing I want to do is go back to the write-up, and check these questions. Explain what a range is and what can you put around cells to make them more visual. So we talked about that. Now I want to go explain a couple of things. Well, I'll do that in a minute. At the end, I'll do some work on a spreadsheet to show you some particular things. Okay, so now we're in section 6. So what is the purpose of the equal sign as the first entry in a cell? Give the formula you would type in a cell to subtract A7 from A6. Explain the use of the sum function and what is a function in a spreadsheet. So let's go on to section 6. Oops, that's the assignment. Section 6. And in section 6 we're going to talk about formulas. So we format cells. We can also use the real power of the spreadsheet, which is to analyze numbers. And you analyze numbers by using formulas and functions. So you can add numbers together, you can do subtraction, division, all types of things. So we're going to look at how to generate, format, and modify spreadsheets, manage data, and explore using formulas. Now to enter a formula, always starts with the equal sign. So whenever the equal sign is typed in as the first character in a cell, that indicates that there's going to be a formula or a function. So what this says right here is this says equals, or do this math, make B3 add to cell C4. So if you remember in that Class Connect write-up question, I gave you two cells, one to subtract from the other, so your answer is going to look similar to this, but with different cells. So the equal sign indicates that a formula or function is going to be in the cell. Now watch this little video snippet and it will show you how to use formulas. Assigning values to multiple cells. Now check this out. So let's say that this one, this is off because it says they want to add B3 to B7, but you wouldn't add up dates. So I'm not sure why they even used this as an example. But think about this. If you had to type in a long formula like this to add 5 cells together, that's not too hard. But what if you had 10 cells and you had to type all those out? That would be difficult. Well, there's a different way to do it, and that's doing the range command and using the sum function. And the sum function is what is used to add up a range of cells. So the sum function is used to add up a range of cells. It does it automatically. I'll show you how that works in a little bit. Maybe they have a video that'll show that. And here's some sample functions. So what functions do automatic math over a range of cells. So functions do automatic math over a range of cells. So if you look at some of these, here's square root function, here's a count function, here's a maximum function, here's a sum, here's a rounding to round numbers, here's to average numbers, here's to select a minimum, the lowest value in a range, like minimum, and here's a day function. See which of these you can get right with the definitions over here. Try that drag and drop. Okay, now this, for some reason, they throw in here some temperature chart, but and you're not working on one of those. But you can see that this is a temperature chart, and you have your Fahrenheit temperature, but then you want to convert that to Celsius degrees. So if you're working on this, then you would have this, all this work done, and then you can add a function, a formula, right here in column D, and it would figure out Celsius automatically. And this would be the whole formula. And look right here, see that formula? So right now, we're in D4, and it says, hey, in D4, do this math. Do E4, which is right here, subtract 32, then multiply by 5 divided by 9, because that's the conversion to convert from Fahrenheit to Celsius. So they do that formula right here in D4, and what this tells us now is that 31 degrees Fahrenheit equals a negative 0.55 Celsius. And we all know that 0 Celsius is the same as 32 Fahrenheit. So right down here, if we have this same formula and we put right here, then 0 would show up. So that's the example of using a formula. Okay, the formatting the cells menu. So anytime you're in a cell or a range of cells, you go up to format cells. You can do all this kind of stuff to cells. So we'll see some practice of this in a little bit. And the copy function. Once you have a formula, this talks about, if you remember on the early example, you had a formula right here in D4. Then once you have a formula, then you can just copy it all the way down. It will do all the math for you automatically. So the copy function is really useful. Edit and undo. So if you do something you don't want, then you can hit Control Z to undo the last step, or edit and then undo. And it'll keep track of all the things you've done, like the last 3 things you've done. You can get that back, or you can get that back arrow that you sometimes see in spreadsheets. Now this is talking about how to use the right mouse button. So whenever you're on a cell, hit the right mouse button and you have this menu that comes up. So you can do copying and pasting of formulas. Min, max, and average. So we saw that a minute ago. And min, max, and average are different functions that can be used. So like this one, this is doing an average of all of these temperatures by doing an automatic average command. And look up here, see there's the average formula. Equal, average, and then they put the range. And there's how a range goes in. See how it says D5 colon D10? That means do an average on D5, D6, D7, D8, D9, D10. That's how a range is used in a formula. Down here they wanted, right down here in this D cell, they wanted to find the minimum number from all of these. So what was the lowest temperature? So they did equals minimum, D5 to D10. So it said, hey, go look from D5 all the way down to D10 and then print right here what the minimum temperature is. So that's how formulas are used. Now the unit project, again, I'm going to explain this in a different recording, but you're going to make more changes. So you're going to open up project 2, then you're going to save it as unit 4 project 3, and you're going to make these changes to a budget formula or budget spreadsheet. So here's everything we learned. All this stuff in this unit. And then of course you have the unit 4 exam right over here, and there's the exam preview. So let's go to the write-up and make sure I answer those last few questions. What is the purpose of the equal sign? We talked about that. Give the formula you would type in a cell to subtract A7 from A6. So you're going to give the sample formula, make sure you put the equal sign, and when I say A7 from A6, and that means that A6 is going to come first, right? Explain the use of the sum function. We talked about that. Explain what a function is in a spreadsheet. And a function is a way to do automatic formulas. Automatic calculations is done with a function. Automatic calculations are done with a function. Okay, so that's all of the write-up. Now what I want to do is go do some demonstration on a spreadsheet, just to give you an idea. So here's a bunch of numbers. I'm going to go ahead and put some more over here. And these are just random numbers. No, for some reason I typed the same ones. So no rhyme or reason to these, but just show you a couple of things. So if I wanted to add all of these numbers, I could do equal C2 plus C3 plus C4 plus C5 plus C6. I could do all of that to add those numbers, right? And it comes out. Or better yet, I'm right there, and I go up to the top of the screen, and I have at the top of the screen what's called auto sum. And then see how then I can choose this range and hit enter, and it automatically summed those numbers for me. I can take this formula and then I can right click copy, and I'm going to paste it right here. Right click paste, and now that formula, it went from, like right here, it was originally C2 to C6, and it changed to D2 to D6 because it knew where we were moving it to. So you can see how those copy commands can really help you. If I go right here and I want to add these numbers. So I'll do equal, and I can click equal that one. Then I do shift plus that one. So now I added those numbers equals 40. And check this out. I can copy them all the way down. So instead of just doing the copy and paste, I'm going to grab that little box in the lower right corner, and I just drag that down. That changes the formulas automatically. So you can see C2 plus D2, C3 plus D3, etc. So it does all that for me automatically. Now if I wanted to highlight a range, so I'm going to highlight all these. Maybe I wanted to put a grid around it. So I'm going to right click, format cells, and I'm going to put a border, an outline around the whole thing. I want to put a nice thick outline around the whole thing. And you can see that it's choosing just the outline. It's not choosing all the stuff in the middle. Then I'll hit OK. See that put a thick grid all the way around it. Now maybe I want to put grid lines in the middle, so I highlight it, right click, format cells, and now I want to do inside also. I want that to be a thinner line. So now inside I'm going to have a thinner line, hit OK. Now see what I've done with this. So that's how you can put grid lines and different things. So if I want to go back and even make my outline thicker, format cells, so I want to make my outline much thicker. I don't know if it gives me, maybe I'll make it a different color to see what happens with this. That didn't give me the color. That's strange. Outline there. It's actually showing red outline around there. I don't know why that's not doing it. But anyway, when you do your work, you're going to be changing cells, putting grid lines and things like that. Okay, that's all that I have for you. Let me jump back to the course. So we've covered all of this, and as I said, I'm going to do a separate recording for the 3 project assignments you have. Something doesn't seem to be working right. Okay, so that wraps up the spreadsheet work, and again, you're going to have project 1, project 2, project 3, and all the work for this week. It should not take you more than 4 hours at the most. Most students are going to probably finish it in a couple of hours if you just sit and get it done. Okay, thanks everybody. Bye.